Hello, this is Dan Hennen. I'm joined with Greg Fernandez Jr., Catherine Michele, and Sophia in an update episode on the Crowley case. Today is September 1st, 2019. It's Labor Day weekend, and we'd like to give everyone up to speed on the case. On the Justice for David Crowley and Family page, we now have 2,728 members. They're still joining, and I think we haven't been doing many videos and updates here in the last couple of months, and this would be a good chance to get an update on everything. Catherine and Sophia and Greg Fernandez Jr. we have here with us. Greg, you want to start off first with an update on your book on the David Crowley book that you're writing on. What is the status on that?
Sure. So I was able to get through a lot more, a lot quicker than I had previously thought, and I do think that I will be able to have this published and for a free download, at least at the very latest by January 17th, 2020 or 2020, basically.
Okay.
So I did have to cut a lot of things. There was a lot of stuff that I felt wasn't really necessary to the story, and the story is just meant to be a reference guide for researchers. There is other things in there too, but that is supposed to be the main bulk of this to make it easy for people when they're doing their own research as a reference guide that they can go back to. It's not solving this case. It's not meant to solve this case. It's meant to help people who are like me, who were very confused by all of the differing stories, by all of these things that we kept hearing, how everybody's story changed. It is really meant to just get to the heart of the facts, so that people can take those facts, take that data, and do whatever they want with it. I do think that this book will just help show that obviously there's no evidence, there's no proof that David Crowley is guilty, and that there's something else going on here. So it's been a long time. What has it been, Dan? We've been on this case now for almost 5 years, I think, right?
Yeah, it's been about 4 years and 9 months coming up here, over 4 years and 8 months for sure. So we're in coming up on the 5 year mark, and I think that book coming out at that time in January on that five year anniversary would be very good for these all of the new members that are investigating, and also many people that have never heard of this case, and those who have heard of it, to be able to jump in and read the book and hopefully clarify some of the disinformation and misinformation that's been out there, because that's a big issue I think with this case is the confusion. There's so much confusion between many of the players and the characters here with the same names, um, the various juniors and seniors, and it's a lot of misinformation and disinformation that was put out there on purpose as well. And then we get this to confuse everybody. That documentary came out done by Eric Nelson. Really is what's driving most of the people to our justice group because of the confusion they get after that. And I know another plan in the future is to get an actual documentary done on this case, um, for two reasons. One, to set the record straight on what really did and didn't happen from an evidence point of view, and number two, to undo or to unwind the comments and the theories put forth in that other documentary that Eric Nelson did, because it steered people so much on a wrong path that we almost need a documentary just to just to undo these strange circumstances from that first documentary. So I know there's been some folks interested in doing that. Have you heard anything back on a documentary on this, Greg?
Um, Nothing concrete yet. Still, there's a couple different ways that we could go. I think that's one of the reasons why the other day I posed it to the group, and I just asked if somebody were to make a real documentary film, what would they want to see? And if anybody listening to this is a member of our group, Justice for David Crowley and Family, please, help us out, because every time somebody leaves a comment, these are really good comments that are left on there, and it really gives me a lot to think about, and it really, helps me see how difficult a real documentary is going to be. Not as far as the facts and all of the different proofs and all of that, but just making a film and making a documentary film is a difficult task, especially if you want to do it right. So I've been praying on it, and I know we had talked with Christian Coffins, and he was talking about doing one, and I don't know. I don't necessarily think that it just has to be one either. It can be, it can be several. But I think we do need that, because people who watch that movie, it just leaves you with this bad taste. It's just like, ugh, like that can't be it. That cannot be the whole thing. And then getting people caught up can be very difficult when they have to sift through that stuff. And I had this problem with my book, because I was going through trying to, like, fact check these things, and dates aren't adding up. You have, you'll see something in Eric Nelson's film, and then you'll kind of look at some of the other dates, and it's like, oh, okay, well, I'm not sure if these dates add up. You see that a lot. So that's another reason why you see that a lot with people's stories, and how they change. We have people say, well, you have Danny Mason, who says the last time he had a exchange with David was on December 7th, but then when you look at the actual document, it says December 9th. So it's things like that. Just getting dates wrong, and dates to me are very important. David's brother had the biggest problem in all of these documents and everything, getting dates wrong. So much so that when you look at the timeline in the 94 pages of the police reports, anything that mentions Dan Crowley Jr. doesn't really have a date. Even though he knows what date he talked to his brother, he knows what date text messages went back and forth, he doesn't give those. David's dad does, and other people do, but Dan Crowley Jr. doesn't do that. So it's just those type of things that have frustrated me, trying to make it so that when people look at this case, that they can get actual data, some data based on facts, not just based on what somebody says or what this person says, but what the hard facts say. And I think that's going to be the biggest challenge for people that are just getting caught up in this case. And there are many people that are just learning about this case, and you can see when people learn about this case and start digging into this case, they realize there's something very toxic here, and there's something wrong.
Has there been any updates with the Gray State script or the movie plans? Has anyone heard? I do know that just this last summer, that was it 2019 in the end of June, that screened
right.
the Actors Guild. That's the registration for David Crowley expired. Has anyone heard information on that now? Is it eligible now? Is that script eligible for someone to take the ball and run with it from a legal standpoint? Even though it's probably not going to be wise to do from realistically to do that, but legally, could that fall into someone's hands and run with it now? Sophia, do you have anything on that?
I know that Danny August Mason and Dan Sr. both have lawyers on it, but I don't know what else is being done. It was in a type of legal limbo. But anything else?
I do think that when Danny August Mason set up that new company called Gray State Universe LLC in the state of Minnesota, just a few months, after the bodies were discovered. That was back in 2015, and I think they were hoping to set this up. He was able to get a trademark, the company set up, and I think he's moving forward with it, like you said, with attorneys and whatnot to move forward. But I believe that's where they stumbled upon the fact that when the crime scene photos came out, it does show that certificate of the Gray State Project with the registration expiration date of 2019, and that's when I think we saw that the Danny August Mason script, progress. That company had stalled, and they had not then renewed the company. He had since moved to Texas. I don't think they're doing anything with Gray State Universe. And so the whole thing kind of fizzled. Not to say that they're not going to do anything with it, but as far as I know, back then there was nothing to do moving forward with it. Have you heard anything, Catherine, on that front?
I have not heard anything. However, I will put this out there because I've been a published writer myself through the actual what they call traditional venue, and the fact that David had it registered with the guild, that is not the same as copyright. That just means that he had it there with Hollywood, and it would expire at a certain date if he didn't renew. That has nothing to do with copyright law. The play, the scripts, everything he wrote, everything he filmed, everything he said belongs to him, and it is copyrighted. And now that he's dead, it will remain under his copyright protection for 70 years. So they're going to have a heck of a time trying to take what David wrote. Now, that doesn't stop them from writing their own quote-unquote Gray State, but they have to start from the beginning and come up with their own ideas. They cannot take what David did and now go forward and create their own. They have no rights, and it doesn't pass down in a family, so nobody inherits that unless it's specifically written in a will, and all of this has to be done and produced with. I think I'm not sure if they would have to send that along to the Library of Congress or not. But his script is his script, and anyone who tries to take what he did and make it their own, like I've said before, I will report them. Because that's copyright infringement and that's stealing, and that is against the law. So what he did is safe for 70 years.
Now, because
and that's what's in the legal limbo right now is the copyright. They both filed for that, but it's in legal limbo for at least 70 years. So.
Yes, because if David put it through first, which I'm assuming he did, he was a smart man. And then if Danny tried to come back later and add it as his as a copyright, initially when it is sent to get to the Library of Congress holds all that, but you don't have to have that for it to be copyrighted, and that's what a lot of people forget. And so David holds copyright title, and Danny's going to have a heck of a time trying to prove that he had anything to do with it if David did not include his name on his initial paperwork. If he just, which we all know and we've all seen that it just says by David Crowley, by David Crowley, by David Crowley. Danny is the one who comes in and says, oh no, I did this too. Well, no, just because you help with an idea during a photo shoot or a filming sequence doesn't make you a co-author.
Well, I think Danny Mason thought that he was, and in the documents, in the last email from David Crowley, he kind of confirms that too.
No, he says he would give him the for the Rise concept and for that little photo shoot for the Rise, which is not
that's part
Gray
of it.
State.
Right, that's part of it.
It's a set aside. It's like a subset, but that doesn't mean he then becomes owner with the rest of the Gray State thing.
Correct.
He only has partial ownership of the Rise, and because he never signed it, David never. It was never legally signed over because Danny refused to sign it. So he kind of kicked himself in the butt. He never said, okay, well, that's great. Thanks. I agree with this, and I'll take that. Right. So as it stands now, he has no legal claim to anything because David didn't turn it over.
And there's a public catalog for the copyright, and it only has David's name on there for every filing that he's made. So he has no rights to it.
Well, there is a story, right? There is that one cover sheet that does show that Danny Mason is the co-creator of this story. And if I were Danny Mason, looking at this page that I just pulled up now here, the last email from David Crowley to Danny Mason, I would use this. I would use this to show that David Crowley did consider me a co-creator of the concept, and maybe that's part of the whole limbo thing that they're going through now. I mean, to me,
Well, legally,
Mhm.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
No, I was going to say, legally, though, when David offered him and said, here, I will give this to you for full ownership, but I need you to sign off because he kept trying to claim ownership of Gray State, which was not his. The Rise, yes, he did help, but Gray State, that was not his at all. And so Danny was trying to force David to put his name on Gray State. And David's like, no, I need you just to sign this paper because you have to jump through legal hoops. Nobody's going to film anything if they don't know that it's fully theirs, right? And all legal aspects and legal holes are sewn up, closed, whatever. And Danny knew that. And he knew by holding out, he was trying to force David's hand. But again, he didn't accept it. There's nothing that shows he accepted anything. He just said, oh, well, I'll give you a call and we need to talk about it. That's not accepting. So he kicked himself in the butt. That was on him. And the Crowley side could easily fight that because yes, David did sign. He said, hey, I will give you this. I just need you to sign this document. He said, but I need you to sign.
Yeah, and
he never did it.
And
it was never.
What I thought was the weirdest thing was when Dan spoke with Mike Boggio of the Michael Entertainment Group. Mike Boggio was like, I don't know why David asked Danny to even do that. Now I don't understand the whole legalese and all of that, but I assume that a guy like Mike Boggio would. And so I don't know, maybe David was just taking some extra precautions, which also made me think that I had been living in this world where I thought Danny and David were close and had some type of a falling out. I'm not so sure now. I don't know how close they ever really were beyond just
Danny just kind of popped into his life a few years before the Gray State started filming the trailer for The Rise. And yeah, he didn't really know David. He just kind of popped in and they just sort of met. But as far as what I see, and again, I could be wrong, but we don't know the conversations that took place between Danny and David on the phone.
Right.
We see what little, and they did not communicate hardly at all. So we don't know what was said on the phone, but it to me it's clear by David's email that Danny was being very difficult. He was trying to demand ownership of something he owned nothing to. So it looks like to me like David was trying to cover all of his bases. And no, I agree with Mike Boggio. He did not have to do this. He was trying to help Danny and get Danny some more work. But Danny was fighting it because he wanted more than what he was legally entitled to. And it's that copyright is very plain, and it's very you can't really budge on it. David filed for copyright, only his name is on it. It belongs to him.
Right.
End of story. And for 70 years they can't touch David's work. Doesn't stop them from creating their own. But whatever David did, they cannot have.
Even with the approval of the next of kin, David's father?
No, because he does not hold copyright. David did not leave his books and his film and anything in a will to his father or to his brother or to anybody. I have not seen that anywhere. It's never been mentioned. And if David died without that being specified in a will, it remains David's property. Nobody, not his family, not his friends, no one can claim ownership to that copyright. The best thing they can do is after 70 years have gone by, they can then try to buy the copyright at that point and keep it from going public. Or if they can buy the copyrights, then they can keep it then under their family name. But again, they still have to wait that period out. No one can touch it.
It's filed under Crowley David, estate of David Crowley.
See, there you go. It's David's.
Interesting. And what I was, just to clarify, I've got the photo pulled up here just on my own computer. It's a documentation of registration, and that's from the Writers Guild of America West, Incorporated, issues this certificate to David Timothy Crowley for the material entitled Gray State to David Timothy Crowley, writer, and this is the screenplay that takes effect June of 2014 and expires on June of 2019. And like Catherine said, that's got nothing to do with the copyright or the rights of it. That's just him registering this screenplay, essentially, that it is his, and then he can just simply renew it. But the legal standpoint is the copyright. Now, my question for Catherine, I guess, is, because we have not seen the screenplay, what if Danny August Mason or someone else produces a movie very similar,
Dreamcatcher.
but very similar, and moves forward with this concept, but David Crowley is not around to sue, and no one else would be able to sue him because no one else has ever potentially seen the script to know that it is the same or very much the same. What if Danny August Mason was to put a screenplay together that was 95% exactly the same, plagiarized essentially, with a few things changed? Who would ever be the wiser, and who could he get away with doing that?
Well, it's still copyright infringement, but that's why I'm saying if anything happens while I'm alive and I see anything like that, I'm going to write the Library of Congress and ask them if they could forward a copy of the copyrighted material, and then I would compare that. I'm not going to let these guys slide on this. No way. And I think when it's brought to the attention, and then they can then be sued, and then that money, that anything they made, would then go to David, and then, well, since he's dead, whatever his will specified, that money then would then go down that line. And then they would have to do like cease and desist. So they can do something similar, because there's similar stuff out there all the time. But you cannot take their work and say, oh, I just changed a line or two and now it's my movie script. No, it doesn't work like that. So I'll be watching.
And also for the new members, a lot of new members joining the group. As far as we know, that David and Camille did not have a will. David did not have a will, unless there's something out there that we do not know. There wasn't one, and so the assets then would move to the next of kin or the family. But like Catherine just said, this is copyrighted material. It doesn't just fall downhill like that and land in someone's lap.
Correct.
I myself was under that assumption that it would fall into the family's lap because there was no will, and that's why they were going to move forward with it. But because this is copyrighted material, that stays with David, and if nothing was spelled out specifically, that also stays on now for a window of 70 additional years before something can ever happen with that. Is that
correct?
Can you confirm that? Okay, thank you.
Okay, so which part was actually copyrighted?
The script?
The script. Just the script, because because they had planned to make it into a TV series and all that. I don't know. I guess they could.
Well, we don't have the legalese of what was written. However, that really doesn't matter, because knowing how thorough David was, it would include Gray State, any merchandise. He would have included all of that within his paperwork. So yeah, it was probably not too broad, but broad enough to cover everything he was doing with Gray State.
Okay, interesting. Very good. And that'll help for the newer listeners out there, because it's a very confusing topic.
Yeah, it confuses me.
Generally, for all of us, I guess.
Well, and you guys have seen on Danny August Mason's on his Facebook page, he's got something up there called Dream Nation. Anybody know anything about that?
No.
That came out a while ago. Dan, you might remember when that was Looks like
Yeah, I remember a
April.
little bit of that. Yeah, that
It
was
was
4 years ago, I think.
Yeah,
3 4 years ago.
April 23rd, 2006. He posted this one, and it was like I remember a lot of people were thinking, okay,
2016. Sorry.
yeah, 2006, 2016. Yeah, and they were thinking this is a little too close to Gray State. But I don't know. I don't know anything about this, and I haven't really found any information on Dream Nation yet. I just thought that that was weird that he's this. I mean, I'm looking at this poster here, and it pretty much it could be a scene right out of Gray State. Because I know they were taking it in a spiritual level and all that, but I don't know. I was just curious if anybody had ever heard of this thing called Dream Nation. I'll have to dig a little deeper on that one.
Yeah, I'm not sure. Guys, I got to jump off here in a few minutes, but you guys can continue on. And then I would like to see too. Let's see. So Greg's got that book. Catherine, you were going down some different scenarios too of investigation on certain things, following up, and I think Sophia was too. But yeah, it's interesting stuff, and we wanted to do this show just to get everyone caught up. Kind of a summary update here. We're heading into fall, and we are still hard at it, still looking into things, and but we welcome all the new members that are joining. All right, thanks guys. I gotta jump off.
Thanks, Dan.
Thanks,
right,
Dan.
thank you.
Have a
See you
great
soon.
night.
Yeah, thanks.
So I pulled up the actual document of registration from the WGA here, just so people can get a good image of what we're talking about.
Yeah, the Writers Guild of America, in case they don't know what WGA was.
I want to look more at the copyrighted stuff then and see what exactly was under this copyright. You know, just trying to get a better understanding of what they could do and what they couldn't do. I mean, Catherine, I think you kind of broke it down basically. You know, basically well. Just yeah, there's not really too much that they can do without. I mean, it sounds like, and that's what frustrates me with some of the some movies that I've seen, you know, after David's death. You could think, oh man, that's similar. That's similar. So it's just like they can just change, take his concept basically. I'm wondering if Danny Mason could just sell the concept, not necessarily a script or whatever, and just kind of give that to someone. And I think if they do sell it, my personal view, just a guess, 100% guess, is that they would sell it for the purpose of putting it on a shelf. So I don't know what you guys' thoughts are on that.
That's a strong
Well,
possibility.
I do have an email that was shared with me from the WGA in regards to this.
Oh, good. Share it with us.
It says the primary purpose of registration. I need to enlarge this a little bit more. Sorry. The primary purpose of registration is to establish the completion date of original work on behalf of the named author. Once material is submitted, we take possession of the file as evidence of that particular version, and if necessary, the registry will submit material as evidence on legal proceedings or arbitration regardless of location of membership. Excuse me. The WGAW registry does not read registered material. The WGAW registration process places preventative measures against plagiarism or unauthorized use of author's material. Registering does not make work available to third parties or agencies. Each registration requires some form of material.
Yep, that's straight. Yeah, they spelled it out. So, and again, with Writers Guild of America, it's just their process and their own group type thing, and it has nothing to do. It's totally separate from copyright law. So, and then on that, they clearly state that David was the only registrant. He was the only owner.
Anything else on that before we kind of move on to a few other things here?
I think
No?
No.
I think we covered it.
I
I'm
didn't
happy
get.
to post this
Yes, please
if
do.
you
Please,
like.
yeah, please post that. I would love to hear both of your views on a documentary. What do you want to see in this documentary, if one were to get made?
Well, I would like to see them go through the investigation to bring to light the files that we received from the police department. Uh, what do you think, Catherine?
I've been thinking long and hard about that, and it's kind of like I would love to see an interview with the police officers who were there and kind of get them on camera, because how they handle themselves when they answer questions and stuff like that. And the and I don't even know if that's possible. They probably have a gag order or whatever, but I would love to see a documentary from maybe David's perspective of what we know David to be by what we have, and then obviously cover the things that were either misrepresented or gleaned over or just downright twisted to fit a different narrative, you know?
Yeah, the bias that was in the other documentary really, really stood out, and it leaves a bad taste in your mouth. The way that they twisted and edited certain things, they had so much to work with, and this is what they chose to do.
Yeah, exactly. And if, you could like say, here's what the evidence states. Here is what is actually found. And then just kind of leave it at that, let people decide for themselves, as they watch it. Don't tell them what to think, but show them there are so much wrong with what was presented and written in the reports compared to what the photos tell us. And that would just be, amazing. And I think it would open a lot more people's eyes to the inconsistencies and, like you said, Sophia, the bias on not only the police department's side, but in why would so many people automatically accept the conclusion. That, I think, would help a lot of people if that could be in a documentary.
Nice. Well, we did get some interesting comments on that, and it seems like, yeah, people want the experts. Michael Laurie wants names and relationships of all various Gray State players. That's a whole documentary in and of itself,
right?
I think. Mary says just the truth, which is true. That's all we want. That's all we've ever
Right.
really wanted. I mean,
Yeah,
we wouldn't be
absolutely.
here now if we had the truth, obviously. Paulette did not want to say her statement publicly. Tina says Kamel's family for one, which is a big one, because obviously you want to get both sides of the family. I mean, I would think so.
Yeah.
So I think that's a good one. The experts, definitely experts on. Philip says experts on crime scene for sure. They can give you a play-by-play. Definitely expert opinion on how long the bodies were there, what they make of mummified hands. When we talk about these experts, again, I'm very skeptical of what an expert really is, how do you define one? And of course, any expert that we get, is going to be criticized basically by somebody. So it's kind of, you can't. How do you get an expert who can be unbiased in the most possible way? Because everybody has bias, but as
Well,
much as
and that's the
possible.
problem that I've run across when asking police friends and stuff like that. And I'm like, ask them basically the same thing you just said. And they're like, it will be very hard to find any officer to go against another officer, regardless of whether it's true or not. They just don't do it. It's some type of code they have, which really ticks me off because, in other words, their code is to support lies and deceit when they're supposed to be supporting justice and right, and they're not doing that at all. So I kind of gave up trying to look for and talk to other police officers because I just couldn't find anyone who would not. They could read it and go, yeah, but I'm not going to go on record and say that.
And this is why I think that the PI wouldn't go against what the official narrative is because he was a former police officer.
Right. And all of his, I don't know, I didn't see that, I didn't look into that. No, I didn't research or investigate. It's like, well, geez, dude, you just wasted everybody's time, energy, and money. So, yeah, it was like everything that was presented to him, like, this was not consistent. How could this have happened? They say this happened, but the photos and the evidence say that's not possible. So how could you work that out and blah, blah, blah? And he just like, well, I don't know. I didn't look in that. That's not an investigator. That's an idiot. On my part, I'm saying this strictly for me. That's an idiot.
Yeah, he could have done a lot more for sure.
Oh, he could have done anything, any kind of research or investigation. He did none, zero.
Well,
and I'm like,
yeah.
Wow. He read some reports.
I think that's all he was planning on doing, though, right? It seems like
for the amount of money he charged.
Yeah, he
was ridiculous to begin with.
Yeah.
And I've spoken with other, a couple, just not very many, one or two private investigators, and told them what was given, the results of that so-called report, and then how much he charged. They were just like floored. They're like, what? Yeah. So
I don't want to give up on the whole private eye thing. That's another thing that I've been praying on. And we've always talked about getting multiple private eyes, not just one. And I'd really love to keep that conversation going. I know a lot of people are kind of like, they're just fed up. It was too much of a letdown. But I don't think that we should just give up, and I'm not giving up on the whole private eye thing too. So if anybody out there knows a good private eye that can go less than $7,000, let's say that.
Oh my gosh, that was so insane. And like Sophia said, get a PI that doesn't have a police background, because they will stick by that code no matter what. They're not going to turn on each other. Right, wrong, or indifferent. They, and again, that to me, that's criminal in and of itself. But yeah,
I wonder.
They didn't.
Yeah, go ahead.
No, you go ahead, Greg.
I just wonder if we have any private investigators in our group. Of course, that might be kind of biased too. So I'd love to stay away from that, and I'd also love to get somebody who wasn't seasoned. I felt like Kenneth Maines, because I didn't know who Kenneth Maines was until afterwards, and a lot of people were contacting me, letting me know who this guy was and how high profile he was, and so I'd love to get somebody less high profile, somebody who doesn't have a TV show coming out, so they can't be compromised. Anything like that, I would say, would be probably.
Yeah, see, I don't even know the guy either. But if that's the case, if he's getting a TV show, and that totally makes sense as to why he wouldn't go against what the report stated. So he just.
But that would have been good for his show, I would think.
Yeah,
You
no.
would think, no. I mean, but that goes back to the whole thing. The David Crowley case back in 2015 would have been good for any alternative show. And there were a lot of people who had the alternative shows, the alternative platforms, and would not talk about it. And even the ones that did, that were very, very vocal, a couple shows here, there, okay, and that's it, because they're, they can't focus on just one case. So I totally get that. And that's
Hmm.
why it's so great to have 2,700 people in the Justice for David Crowley and Family group who are focused on that. Not saying that that's their only focus, but that they realize that focus needs to be put on this. And the more people you have focused on this, the less you have to worry. It takes that burden off of just one or two people, or just three people. It's really helped having so many researchers, so many different views, so many people who are honestly looking at this, whether they agree with my views or not, whether they like me, and I know some people don't like me. As long as they're researching this, as long as they're seeking truth, I'm gonna try to help those people out as much as I possibly can, if I can. And sometimes that's
Hmm.
just keeping my mouth shut. Dan Hennen brought up two things about the if we're going back to the to a documentary film, which I do think that a private investigator should be kind of part of that documentary film too, but that's a whole nother issue. Two things that Dan would like to see talked about is the curious bank transactions and the deleted Facebook posts from David Crowley's personal account weeks after the bodies were found, which is weird because those posts are in uh, the police documents. They are in the BCA documents. So, but they're not followed up on. Even though they pretty much know who had access to it, they pretty much can figure out who would be able to take out David's posts, and for whatever reason, right? So, then we have Babette. She says, no so-called experts that are former police, which you were both just talking about, because that blue line will not be crossed, and they will all stick together.
Yep.
Unfortunately, that might be the case. I don't know. I
I
don't know.
agree with her.
And then we have Donna. Donna says that he advocated for humanity to expose the truth as a wake-up call to resist the control of the military government and NWO. He utilized his perfectionism to enhance the reality of our future through his trailer. Very importantly, he loved his entire family, including Paleo, which
Oh,
is true.
very well spoken.
Yeah, it is. It definitely is. Anything more on that? Either
I
of
don't
those
think
two?
so. Mhm.
I found this one
No, I
little
don't think so.
interesting thing. Going through my just reading my book and rereading, trying to make sure I didn't forget anything. I found out that I forgot a lot of stuff. So one of the parts that I went back to was one of the things that Kate Crowley said. Or
Mhm.
really, it's not something that she said, but it's what was written about her. Because there's not that much there. But let me see if I can find this here. Basically, the way that it was phrased was that, well, let me just go ahead and read this here. So, Detective Sean McKnight and Detective Brian Bone met with Kate Crowley most likely on January 19, 2015. According to Detective McKnight, Kate informed Detective Bone and I that she had not seen David, Kamel, or her granddaughter since their birthday party in August. She had not spoken with them either and had concerns because they changed their phone number. She had no insights into what they had done. And that really, I was like, wait a minute, what do you mean they? And this is in the Apple Valley Police Reports, page 67 through 68. Why are they saying they? Where is this they coming from? So it says she had no insights into what they had done, McKnight continued, or why they had done it. She said that the one thing she was sure of was that David and Kamel loved each other and that they loved their daughter. She had trouble she had trouble believing that David would do anything to harm his family without Kamel being in agreement with him. That is a very disturbing thing. It's a very disturbing comment, and this is very early on too, and it goes back to that pack theory. And this is why I want to hear it from Kate's own words, not what they're interpreting her words are, because we know that that can be interpreted many different ways. But it's very important, I think, to get the actual transcript of whatever Kate Crowley said here. I also found it strange that when they talked with Kate Crowley, Kate's daughter was there, but her son was not there. When they talked with David's dad, both children were there. They were both present, which I thought was kind of odd too. But I don't know if there's an issue with Dan Jr. and Kate, if there was any issue, or if there was just a conflicting in schedules of why they couldn't, why one child would be there and the other one wouldn't. But I kind of noted that, but the biggest thing to me was just like, what are they talking about? Where is this they coming from? And why would Kate Crowley, if it's true, if this report is true, right? If it's not misinterpreted or twisted, where is this they coming from?
Yeah, that is so weird. So weird.
So that bothered me. Well, good peeps. Anything else you got here? Any other pressing topics? Anything we want to say for the future? Maybe. I know we've got some other issues going on, and so I don't know what we want to talk about publicly here. But like Dan said, we're very active. We're still looking into this case and still trying to stay on top of it as much as possible. We do have lives. We do have other things going on, but for whatever reason, we all feel kind of called to make sure that we stay on top of this and figure out what really happened here for David, for his family, and for anybody who might fall victim to a similar circumstance. I think it's very important to get the facts out there, to get the truth out there, and for people to understand that David Crowley cannot be proven guilty. He never was, never will, never can be. And therefore, we need to stop acting like David Crowley is guilty, because there's no proof that he is.
Yep, I agree.
Absolutely. Well stated. Thank you, Greg.
All right. Any final words here? I'm going to shut this party down for now.
It's thanks to everyone who's listening, and we'll catch you next time.
Thank you all. Have a great day and a safe holiday tomorrow for those in the United States.
That's right.
And for those of you in the hurricane path, please stay safe.
And that's where is that at? Is that in Florida area, or where is it?
The Florida, Carolinas, Georgia area, all that.
Yeah, it's over the Bahamas right now. Yeah.
Oh my goodness.
Yes. So, any listeners, please stay safe out there.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
All right, until we meet again, shutting this down.